All right, this is a demonstration from the making of Mexican rice. We're going to start off showing you guys the pans that we need to locate before we even start prepping the ingredients. This is our finishing pan. The rice is going to be cooked in this vessel. And this is actually known as a saute pan. All right, and the thing that we want to know about it is it has straight sides. Okay, this is our all-clad pan, got a nice tight-fitting lid that we need to trap the steam of the rice. Okay, so that is available. Set that off to the side. And this is our calphalon. So it says here on the glass lid, calphalon, and also the handle underneath, that this also is a saute pan that we can use with the straight sides. Now, if you get experience at making rice, you will actually be browning off the rice in this pan, adding the onions a little bit later, the garlic after that, the tomato, and the caldo, the broth, and do it all in one pan. But because we're just learning out our stoves and doing this for the first time, we're actually going to be using this pan to brown off our rice. Now this has sloped sides, which actually makes it easy for us to toss food and saute, but more technically this is known as a frying pan or a skillet. So it is the one with the sloped sides that we're going to be using for the browning of the rice. Okay, so we're going to need this for browning the rice and one of these two for finishing the rice. What we're going to be needing is some measuring cups. So a larger 4-cup measuring cup to make 3 cups of broth or caldo. Okay, 1 cup measuring cup to get my 1 cup of tomatoes. Smaller measuring cup, that's going to be my 1/3 cup of oil. I'm going to need a dry measuring cup for 1/2 cup of the onions I'm going to cut up. Okay, and I like to have my bench scraper for lifting things up. I have my onion to cut up, which we'll come to. Okay, I have my oil off to the side, set of measuring spoons, but there are some ingredients that we have to get out in the middle. So let's go grab those up. And so on a cart that's centrally located, we will have the ingredients that you guys need to come and get, and that is going to be 2 cups of long grain rice. Okay, so this long grain rice has a capacity that for every cup of rice we have, it can absorb a little bit over 2 cups of liquid. So that's 1 cup and now 2 cups. And there are some short grain rices that can absorb like 3 times their volume in liquid, but this is long grain rice that we're grabbing. We also need 1 cup of tomato product. Okay, and so that was where our measuring cup's gonna come into play. So 1 cup, 8 ounces. This is just crushed tomatoes. Sometimes you might have tomato sauce that has additional seasoning in it, so that's a 4-ounce ladle, so twice should take me right up to 8 ounces, and it does. Okay, and then we also have our caldo, okay, our bouillon, our consommé. Now this is a powder, and on the back it tells you the ratio. For every cup of water, we want 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon serving, okay? Right there, 1 teaspoon. All right, so for every cup of water, we want 1 teaspoon of powder. And so, if we have our measuring cup that's going to have 3 cups of water in it, what I'm going to want to add to this is equivalent of 3 teaspoons of this powder. Okay? So this stays in the middle so everyone can have it. You guys will probably find some spoons out here in the middle, but I can either do this teaspoon 3 times, or knowing that there are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, I'm just going to use 1 tablespoon of powder. So if you know your measurements, it can be less work. All right, so this is going to go to my sink to get 3 cups of water added to it. We can leave these spoons behind for the other group. All right, so I'll be right back with that. That is exactly 3 cups of water. All right, and just with a plastic fork, we can stir that up. Warmer the water, the faster it dissolves. That's going to go back over to my cook station. All right, and over at my cook station, you can see that I got out a green cutting board, which we use for cutting fruits and vegetables. I have a wooden spoon that is going to be used to stir up the rice later on. I have this onion. I need a 1/2 cup total. For this size onion, I think it'll be a good half of the onion, without much left over. Okay, so go ahead and rinse that off. And then we need the equivalent of 2 teaspoons of garlic, which should be 2 good-sized cloves. And so for us to know how garlic works. This is an entire head of garlic. Okay, and to start with the heel of my hand, I can crush that down to get to the individual cloves. Now each clove should be the size of a teaspoon. Well, that's a clove, and so is that. Those are clearly not the same size. Itty bitty monster. Okay? So you need to find cloves that end up being about 2 teaspoons. I know from experience that and that together will work. Not that little guy. Okay? The garlic is going to have some paper involved. All right? So if we want to, first thing, we can go ahead and smash that with the flat of our knife. My palm on that, the heel of my palm, and get the garlic out of the paper. I'm going to mince that up separate. Okay? Now with our onion, same thing, we want to get rid of that paper. So if I cut off the very, very top where the sprout comes off, okay, and I'm going to split through the root there so that I just have that half of an onion, and take off this paper. And leave the root in place and get rid of all that paper mess so it doesn't end up in my food. And that half an onion can go to someone else. All right, so I'm going to be mincing up the garlic super, super small and cutting up the onion to hopefully get half a cup. We'll do that in time lapse so it goes quicker. All right, we're back in real time. Let's see how we did. Let's talk about this half cup of onion. You want half a cup of onion, not too much more. And that is honestly an exact half a cup. That's great. Okay, if you have too much more, set it off the side. That's just my root. That's going to get tossed. All right, so there's a little bit extra onion. That can go in the trash. You have much more than that, talk to Mr. Novella. I may have a use for it. Let's see how we did with our garlic. Okay, see if we had the 2 teaspoons. So there's this amount. That's a teaspoon. There's a pile. Then there's this. That also is a 2nd teaspoon. That's not much extra. You can set it off to the side to be precise. I would have just put it in. All right, it's time to get over to our stove. For the person who's going to be doing that, the person who is washing the knife will go ahead and take that to the sink and get that washed up. Okay, so I'm going to be doing that off camera. But as far as how the stove goes, let's get ready to fire that up. So we're going to reposition the camera. And understand we're going to be on the front burner. Okay, I'll go ahead and get this pushed in and turned on. There's a separate video to show you that in class. Flame is on. I'm going to go ahead and turn that to medium high. Okay, preheat my pan while I wash my knife right now. All right, so the amount of oil that goes in this is 1/4 cup, which is 4 tablespoons, okay? So if I take my oil here, I hadn't measured that out. I need 1/3 cup all day. Okay, so if I go ahead and get myself 1/3 cup, I can get the oil out of the way. Okay, so that's 1/3 cup, which is basically just about 5 tablespoons. Now the amount I'm putting in this pan is 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons. So if I take this that has 5 tablespoons, pull out a tablespoon momentarily, pour the rest of this in the pan, that other tablespoon go back in. That's what's going to be do my onions and garlic coming up. All right? Otherwise, I could have used that tablespoon and poured 4 times in the pan. Now, the oil, nice and hot. Okay? Gonna have a little shimmer to it. I do need to be getting the hoods on. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to toast off my rice. So 2 cups of rice going to go in. Okay, I'm going to be moving this around and cooking this. Okay, stirring it the whole time till it gets to a brown tan color. Okay, and keep your rice in the pan. There should be no rice like all over the stovetop. I'm gonna go get the hood on. We'll be coming back to this in time lapse. All right, we're back. That took about 4 or 5 minutes, and my rice is nice and toasted brown. We don't want this to be black at all. The toasting of the rice is going to have a nutty flavor to it, but also it helps the grains to stay loose and not gummy together. So that's a good sign of Mexican rice, that we have loose rice, not gummy rice. All right, we set that off to the side and now bring in our other pan. The pan we're going to finish in. Okay, the pilot light should light right away because it's been preheated. We're going to get that on high. And that is our last tablespoon of oil. Okay, that's going to go in. So 1/3 cup total, 4 tablespoons with the rice, 1 tablespoon for the onion. And now our onions are going to go in, full 1/2 cup. We can go ahead and use that wooden spoon. Just don't want any rice on it, it's going to burn. Stir that around. We want these onions to get a head start. Okay, they're bigger size than the garlic, so they need a head start to get cooked. I'm only going to put about a minute of time on this. Just try to get them a little bit glossy. The term they may use is translucent, which suggests that they're see-through. They will not become see-through. Just a minute though to put a little gloss on them. We are not looking for these to get brown or what we say caramelized. Okay, so I can move those around. All right, so if those had a head start, almost a minute say, then the next thing that goes in is our garlic. And the garlic goes in after the onions because it's smaller, so they're gonna cook faster. Okay, and if the garlic burns, it's really gonna taste bad. All right, so once that hits the pan, you can really smell that garlic coming in. So that's only getting probably 10-15 seconds, not much time. All right, working quickly so we don't burn our vegetables here. I'm gonna go ahead and get our rice put back in. And as we might have been saying before, if you're a veteran, having done this, you would brown the rice in the pan that I'm finishing in to get a head start and know when it's time to add the onion and know when it's time to add the garlic. But to minimize our chance of mistakes, we're going to do the rice separately. We're going to stir that through into that. We're going to add in our tomato, the full cup. Give that a chance to get mixed throughout. Just so it's coated. We don't want to evaporate all that water away. So just real quick. So it's all stirred throughout. And then our last bit of liquid is the 3 cups of broth. Okay, and if I felt like I had any tomato residue in there, I might pour that in just to swirl it around. But that's all going in. Okay, nice and clean. All right, this has to come to a boil, a big true boil. Lots of vigorous bubbles. Okay, and that can take a few minutes with the lid off. If we put the lid on, we trap the heat and it would boil sooner, but I may not know it's boiling until it starts squirting out the sides. So let's keep the lid off just so I can keep an eye on this. And while that's coming to a boil, I could do a little bit of work of starting to get my dishes ready for cleanup. Now this pan is really hot, so it's gonna stay on the stove for a while. I do have to come back and clean that. All right, that might have been another minute of time lapse or edited, but we are back to a big true boil. Okay, I got bubbles coming throughout. I'm stirring it and still seeing bubbles coming up. So I'm gonna wanna put my lid on. Okay, and turn this down to low. So if I slide this off, just so you guys can see, down to low, the lowest setting that we have, right there. Okay, and it's gonna be on that for 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes. So I'm gonna set the timer for 20. And then when that's done, I'm gonna turn off the stove and leave it alone with the lid on for another 20. So I will not take the lid off. And in fact, I'm probably gonna slide it off to another burner because that burner will still be warm. So 20 minutes on a low simmer while I go get all my cleanup done. We'll We'll see you in 20.